Messy means the media often takes words out of context. The context of that was that democracy is messy, that people will have vigorous debate on the issues.
Will the convention be messy?
Well, of course it will be, but that's what democracy is about.
How can you argue that this primary battle is not in some ways hurting her in a general election and hurting those numbers?
First of all, well, I guess if we take your assumption and Clinton supporters' assumption to the logical conclusion, you know what we should do? We should go back to a monarchy and not have any elections at all, not any debates at all. Why don't we just appoint somebody to become our king or our president?
Is he sitting up in a tree? I've never seen him look so much taller than Kristen Walker. Anyway, in another challenge to Clinton, the Sanders campaign today requested a recanvass of the results of the Kentucky primary, which Hillary Clinton narrowly won last week. I'm joined right now by NBC's Kristen Welker, MSNBC contributors Mike Lubica, the columnist for the New York Daily News, of course, and former Democratic Congressman Harold Ford, who supports Hillary Clinton. Kristen, I thought that, is he that tall, Bernie Sanders, all of a sudden? I mean, he was looming over you there. I thought the strangest perspective. Anyway, just kidding. Not important.
The reality is I'm not that tall.
Okay. Well, what do you make? I think the word messy, what I would think was a good word for you to throw back at him, because if you look at what happened in Nevada, which he said was nonviolent, which a lot of people would say, well, that's a little careful there. That was a pretty rough-looking scene there. And then he says messy doesn't really mean bad. You wonder what his definitions really mean about combustion and trouble in a political setting. Yeah.
I think, Chris, what he means is that he's gearing up for a very vigorous debate. He is prepared to go to the mat over issues like universal health care, the minimum wage, free college tuition, all of these issues that he's been debating with Hillary Clinton about. Now, of course, yesterday we learned that the DNC is going to give him a very big role in shaping the platform. And what he's basically saying there, Chris, I think is this is not just going to be for optics. I'm really going there to make my policies a priority at this convention. And I think you pointed out the fact that he's calling for a review of Kentucky. That plays into his strategy. He wants to go to that convention, Chris, with as many delegates as possible. And that's also why he's fighting so hard here in California. Even if he wins California, it's going to be tough for him to win the nomination. But if he wins a state this big, he's going to have more leverage heading into that convention.
You know, you say go to the mat. I think he's going to the mattresses. This guy's really going to, well, it's going to be tough. Anyway, Mike, you were pretty critical of Sanders in your column today in the paper. You wrote, Sanders stays in the race because his own rhetoric has become a narcotic for him, because he really has convinced himself he is the face and voice of a revolution. And if you're running a revolution, it's a little difficult to head back to the Green Mountains. Well, to the end, Sanders really does act as if the scoreboard is some great big lie, even when the numbers are up there for everybody to see. Mike, I don't know. I agree with your column. I don't think he's operating in the same sort of world that Hillary Clinton and the objective journalists are.
Chris, he keeps saying that the system is rigged. He makes it sound like they changed the rules of baseball on him in the 5th inning, and they went to 4 outs and 4 strikes. Did he not know what the rules of engagement were before he decided to run for president of the United States? And Chris, this isn't about his character or his ideals or his vision of America. This is about the reality of what's going on. Nobody is stealing this from him. And when he talks about a messy convention, does it only get messy because he's not going to get the resolution that he wants?
Yeah, I just wonder about Nevada again, Congressman. Nevada was more than a mess.
It was violent.
It's scary out there. And people were, people like Senator Boxer, one of the best liberals there's ever been, felt physically threatened. That's not a joke. And when he says messy, I wonder where his line is drawn.
Look, he has every right to make the case that he's making and to make it effective. I think Mike's column lays out pretty clearly where all Americans, you look at the scoreboard and you've lost the game. You may have played valiantly, but you didn't win. 2, if he's serious about beating Donald Trump, this is not helping to defeat Donald Trump. And 3, I get a little unnerved at times. I'm more of a moderate conservative Democrat, and some of my liberal friends often attack us moderates for not being as aggressive and progressive as they are, as if they have a monopoly on the ownership of the Democratic Party and what needs to be done to raise wages and make life better for all Americans. So I think at some point, this line here is probably what's going to bring it into this campaign, the call for almost a messiness and almost a violence, much like we saw in Nevada. Because if that's what he's looking for in Philadelphia, I think you'll see a number of leading Democrats begin to speak even even more forcefully that you've run a great race, you've raised important issues. We're going to address them in the platform. You're going to have an opportunity, prime time, to make the case. But we've got to move on because we have a very serious opponent on the Republican side who, if he wins, will fundamentally undo most of what Barack Obama has done. And that we cannot risk that.
Let's talk about how he puts the brakes on. You start, Kristen, then Mike. How does he put the brakes on at the speed he's going right now? Because he's promising, free college tuition for state universities. How's he back down from that? Lifetime health care as a right. Lifetime. What's the second? Well, how do you pull back from that? And huge increase in Social Security and a $15 minimum wage. He goes into that drafting committee with his 5 votes or 4 votes. And now how does he come out of it and say, I've done a great job here. I've moved the party left. I can now turn it over to Hillary. How does he do that running at this speed?
I think that's the huge challenge for him right now, and you can almost feel that the campaign is trying to figure it out because they have come this far, because so many people feel as though he has run a great campaign. How does he land this plane now in a way that does speak to the desires of all of his supporters and that allows them to ultimately get behind Hillary Clinton? That's not necessarily, I think, his top priority. I think his top priority is making sure that some of his policy positions get into the Democratic platform. So I think compromise is going to be a big word because Hillary Clinton has to walk a very fine line, Chris. She can't go too far to the left in a general election against Donald Trump. And she's been pretty clear that she's not going to adopt all of his policy positions. So there's going to have to be a lot of compromise involved in that. And I asked him, look, is he calling for his supporters to protest if he doesn't get what he wants at the convention? And he sort of sidestepped that question and said, look, ultimately, I feel confident that we will be able to reach some agreement. So I think that is what he's going to be looking for, Chris. Maybe not all of those policy positions that you just mapped out, but at least a few of those. And again, he's really the linchpin to starting to rally some of those younger voters who right now, a lot of them saying they're not going to support Secretary Clinton in a general election.